This week I had a couple appointments with some clients where the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn response was coming up, and I was talking about the different ways that you have to deal with each response, because not each response needs the exact same mechanism to deal with it. So I figured, oh, that's a perfect topic to talk about today. So today we're going to dive into how to deal with the fight, flight, fawn, or freeze response when it is coming up. But before we get into today's video, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Missy. I'm a life and relationship coach, and on this channel we get to the root of the issue and we learn how to heal and deal. And also you can always hear my puppy's pitter patters in the background, like right now. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy this content, and if you already are a subscriber, you know I appreciate you so much. Okay, let's get into today's video. So something we talk about often on this channel, I'm sure you've heard it before, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. Those are all part of the nervous system responses and what our body goes into when we try to protect ourselves from what is perceived danger or threat. So with the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn response, we've evolved to have those because of outside threats like bears and fires and, you know, all those things to protect us so we can live longer. So like if there was a bear, we would decide, okay, do we freeze, or do we fight the bear, or do we run from the bear? Now we don't have those types of threats anymore, and so now our fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses come out at times when we're not in any type of actual danger. It's more emotional danger than it is physical danger. And so we need to learn how to cope with these emotions in a healthier way, because we don't need to respond those same ways anymore. So to dive into the first one, the fight response, which this is when you feel the need to protect yourself. So your automatic nervous system, like when there's something that's perceived as a threat, your automatic nervous system will kick in, you'll feel adrenaline, and if you go into a fight response, you'll get an urge to either physically fight someone or argue. Someone that overly argues is someone that feels the need to be heard, and they want to convey a point and they don't know how to maybe have conversations, and it's because we get into this fight mode of they need to attack because they feel threatened. And so when you get into this fight mode, if you are someone that goes into this response, you are feeling the need to get rid of this danger, of this threat. Now, when you're in this mode, your emotions are really high. You're coming from that emotional part of your brain, the right side prefrontal cortex. And and this happens often in trauma, where your emotional part of your brain gets strengthened way more than your reasoning and your logical part of your brain in the left prefrontal cortex, because you don't need to reason when you're in danger and in threat. You need to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn in these situations. So that's why when you're in this mode, you can't think about consequences. You don't need to think about consequences when you're in danger. You need to save your life. And so you can be really unreasonable and illogical, and you're completely dysregulated in these moments. Then later on, you probably will regret some of the things. You're like, oh, why did I do that? And you are like, I just want to stop, but you may not know how. So what you need to do in this moment is, if you are someone that gets angry or there's a big fighter, if you get the urge to argue or yell or prove your point, or you get really defensive, what have you, that's the ego coming in trying to protect you, there's something you feel in your body. You will feel a sensation. You'll get this urge to, you know, get it out. Like, you know, your fist will come out, or your hands will clench into a fist rather, or you will you'll feel choked up in here. Something will happen where you want to get it out. So when you notice you're in that mode, that's when you have to immediately, within a split second, take deep breaths, because that's what helps you to regulate and for you to be able to have both your hemispheres work together. And not only that, but you can also move your eyes side to side as well, because that will also help you, so that way your brain is getting more regulated. So it's just simple, just going like this. It may feel weird, but it will help you so you're not getting so dysregulated. And you want to take a lot of deep breaths. Then once you have calmed down, and you want to be careful of the stories that play in your head, because oftentimes when we're in that fight mode, we'll, you know, start to fill our heads with these stories and we'll get really pissed off. It's important that you focus on just your goal is to calm down, and that's what you want to focus on. It's just being calm in that moment. And remember, saying like, I'm not in danger, I am safe, even though you feel threatened because something's pissing you off, or because maybe you're really anxious in that moment. just say, okay, you know what, I'm not in danger, I'm not a helpless child, let me just focus on relaxing in this moment. And if you're around people, definitely, you know, you can take a break, go outside, go to the bathroom, what have you. Just recognize when you're feeling these sensations in your body. You'll feel hot all over, you'll feel something. Just get very aware. The most important thing is you always want to be aware and know what you are feeling. Then once you have calmed down and you notice you don't have that urge to immediately fight, then you want to evaluate the situation and say, okay, what is going on? What are the consequences if I respond with that fight response? If I start arguing or I start, you know, fighting with my fists? Do I want to deal with this consequence? And, you know, ask yourself, what really is my goal? Will doing this original response help me reach my goal? Most often of the times it won't. Maybe you need to have a conversation, but not the angry conversation you were about to have, because you never want to make decisions or have a conversation when you're that heated or you're in a fight mode, when the adrenaline's running through your body. You still will have that emotion. You can still be angry, you can still be upset, but you don't want to be at your highest having in conversations or making decisions. Then once you realize, okay, this won't help me reach my end goal, which is maybe that you want to resolve things or you want to be heard or what have you, then you can think, okay, what will help me, you know, what will give me relief, what will help me to be able to deal with this, and then you do that healthier response. So that's what you can do in that fight mode. Are there moments when you will need to fight? Yes, 100%. But you have to be aware, if you are a huge fighter and it usually results in negative consequences, you're probably doing it to the extreme. So you want to lessen that and be able to learn how to use your words and learn how to effectively communicate so you are heard. Because that's what we want. You know, when you're a fighter, you just want to be heard at the end of the day. You feel like you're being mistreated, you want to protect. So learn how to protect yourself by being more logical and adding more reason and logic into that. And it's all trial and error. Now there's also times when you're having anxiety, well, you will get into that fight mode. You want to recognize that anxiety is kicking in and realize, like, you may need something else. You may need to deal with that anxiety in a different way. Maybe you realize you're telling yourself all these stories and they're stressing you out, or maybe you need stress relief. There's other ways that you can deal with it, but just recognizing that's your anxiety kicking in, because I know I get irritable when I'm having anxiety, and realizing, like, okay, this is not what's going on. Like, I don't need to fight. I actually need to deal with all of this anxiety that's building up. Now the next one is flight. Flight, again, you feel like you need to protect yourself. You're feeling the need to get away. I feel like with flight, there's more of a panic of, like, I need to hurry up and get out of here. Like, I don't want to be in this environment. I feel so threatened right now. You have this adrenaline in your body and it's more lower based, and you have this need to, like, run. And like I said, you have this overwhelming feeling of needing to flee, get out of the situation. Now again, you are in that emotional part of your brain. It's hard to reason with yourself. You may not be in an actual danger or a threat, but you are there's something that's scaring you or worrying you or making you feel unsafe, and you're like, I need to get out of here. So you're not able to evaluate the situation correctly because you're always just fleeing. It could be something so harmless, like, you know, you need to have a social interaction. I know it doesn't feel like it's harmless when you have social anxiety, but if you, like, literally having a social interaction isn't actually harmful, but, like, because your brain sees it as a threat and dangerous because of situations from your past, you will get that adrenaline, like, oh my god, I need to flee. So you need to, and so you can't evaluate the situation correctly and be able to deal with that social anxiety and that social interaction. And then you're miserable and you keep staying away, and it trains your brain that, oh, this is dangerous, stay away. So in order to deal, if your flee is something that always comes in, you need to, again, be aware of those sensations. That's so important. Be aware. Like I said, you'll probably feel something in your leg. You'll probably feel this, like, panic feeling of, I need to get away, I need to get away, I need to get out of here, I need to run away. And take deep breaths as soon as that happens. I know it will be really hard because you just have this immediate urge to run away, but it's so important that you break that pattern, because with everything, it's so important to break that pattern and evaluate the situation. Now, if you're actually in front of something dangerous like a fire, obviously you don't need to evaluate the situation, but I think you can kind of, you're not so irrational where you don't realize when like, you're actually being threatened versus, like, what is perceived as a threat. So you want, when you're in those situations where there's not, like, actual physical danger, you're more so feeling that maybe emotionally dangerous, you want to, again, take some deep breaths. If you need to go to the bathroom or what have you, go outside, then do that, but calmly. Don't run away like you're in danger. Calmly do that. Take deep breaths and look around to find things that make you feel safe. So maybe you notice, like, let's say you're in the store and you see a little stuffed animal. You're like, oh, I see that stuffed animal. That means I'm safe. You know, I wouldn't see a stuffed animal if I'm not really safe. Or let's say you see like some people laughing. You're like, okay, they're laughing. If there's really danger, there wouldn't be some people laughing over there. You just look around to remind you of why you're safe. You have your hands. You can feel your hands. That's to help ground you, for you to realize I am safe and I don't need to flee this situation. Then once you feel more safe and you've taken those deep breaths like you do in the fight situation, then you want to evaluate the situation, because again, your brain is more level-headed. You could also do the, you know, putting your eyes side to side, just doing something so that way you equalize your brain and that you're not just stuck in your emotional part of your brain. So again, like I said, this is again where you want to evaluate the situation. What is going on here? What need am I trying to get met by running? And usually the need you're trying to get met is by feeling safe or trying to avoid a situation. What do you actually need? What you actually need is that to be able to deal with this situation in a healthy way of not trying to run away. Maybe it's a confrontation. Maybe it's, you know, social interaction. Maybe it's being in a store. Maybe it's being around something that makes you uncomfortable. That's not dangerous, it just maybe makes you a little uncomfortable. And so then think, okay, what is a healthier way to fill my actual need, which is to be able to deal with this problem without feeling a need to run away, and then do that thing. So maybe that means setting small goals to be able to deal with it. Maybe it's just having a casual, very short conversation and then ending it with like, okay, it was nice talking to you, I gotta go. Maybe it's spending 5 minutes in the store and dealing with it. Maybe it's by exposing yourself to small amounts of that thing that makes you uncomfortable, whatever it is, like setting small goals to be able to deal with that and not just throwing yourself into it. And when you get that urge to flee, you do that exact same thing, is, you know, calming down, seeing that you're safe and evaluating the situation and just trying to deal with it. Now, are there moments when you want to flight? Yes. Like I said, it's evaluating the situation. And so let's say there's a bunch of guys coming to attack you, like you're Jake Paul in that situation where those guys, you know, who was it? I think it was Mayweather. I can't remember. I think Mayweather. There was a bunch of guys that were waiting to jump Jake Paul. Flight. Run away. That's a valid situation to run away. But other than that, if you're generally not in a physically dangerous situation, you generally don't need to flee unless you're dealing with like a narcissist. Okay, valid. Flee that situation. The next one is freeze. Now, oftentimes people will say, oh, fight, flight, freeze, all of them, just take deep breaths and, you know, calm your body. But freeze, you actually are more often your parasympathetic nervous system. So you don't really, you can feel that adrenaline, but you're not often getting this urge to like fight or flight like you do when your automatic nervous system is kicking in. Usually, like, often it's like this, like, I can't move, and that can be a part of being in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. So oftentimes if you're in that freeze, your body can just be stuck in rest mode. If you were to use the same tools of taking deep breaths, you would just get deeper into that parasympathetic nervous system and just being more calm and more relaxed and just staying there. Oftentimes when you get into a freeze state, you can become paralyzed. Even with your thoughts, you can become paralyzed. You're numbing yourself. You may be scrolling through Instagram, or you may be staring at the wall, or you just are like not moving. So you feel frozen. You feel this overwhelming feeling of not being able to move or function. There's these thoughts of, you know, basically subconsciously, if you move, something will happen. You have to be hidden. And this can come from this freeze response. Can come from, like, if you had parents that fought a lot and you didn't want to be seen and you didn't want to be attacked, you can get in that mode where you just freeze, so you make sure you don't get attacked. Now, the freeze can be helpful in certain situations, like when you do want to be hidden and there's a physical threat, but in emotional situations, it often isn't helpful to freeze. Like, you know, let's say you're talking to someone, you're interested in someone that's attractive, and you go into a freeze state, that's not really helpful. Then the girl is like, or the guy is like, do you talk? Are you okay? Like, what's going on? So that's not helpful. Even though your body thinks it's helpful and trying to be helpful and your ego is trying to be helpful, it's not. What you actually need to do, and this is the one thing that I've been talking to a few of my clients about, is you actually need to get yourself moving. So one thing that can be helpful is to start breathing heavier on purpose. Another thing is to get yourself moving, doing jumping jacks, maybe walking around in a circle. Since you can get stuck and paralyzed in that freeze response, it hurts your ability to think and problem solve and evaluate the situation. When you move around, you're getting the blood flowing, you're getting more into the, your nervous system's kicking in a little bit more in a healthier way, and you're able to get the thoughts flowing. And when you get the thoughts flowing, you can evaluate the situation better and you can come up with some solutions to your problem. And this adrenaline, you know, when you're moving around, you get more adrenaline, you get a little bit more excited. And I don't mean excited like, oh yay, like excited is something, it's a term I grew up with. My dad would be like, don't get so excited. It's more so getting kind of like pumped, more animated. And it will help you to come up with some of those solutions. So if you're in a social situation and you do freeze, obviously you're not gonna do jumping jacks or start walking around, but you can try to actively try to breathe a little bit heavier, not in a hyperventilating way, but more so like, and obviously you're not gonna make it too obvious, but you can maybe take a moment and do that or what have you. Now if you're in social situations and this happens, you can definitely excuse yourself and you can start to just breathe, walk around, take a walk, go outside, make something up, like I gotta go smoke. You don't smoke, who cares? Do they know? No, no one cares. Go and do that. And I'm joking about the smoking, don't say you smoke, but you want to try to help yourself to get yourself moving so then you can think better. But the whole purpose is that, I haven't said it a million times, you want to get yourself moving. Then once you get yourself moving, you're gonna ask yourself, okay, what's the problem? I feel nervous talking to this person, I don't know what to say, I'm scared they're gonna think I'm stupid, what have you. Kind of the problems will come in. You can, and then you ask yourself, what is the outcome I'm looking for? I'm trying to get their number, I'm trying to get them interested. Okay, how do you achieve that? By being active in conversation, by flirting, by, you know, getting to know them a little bit more, asking them questions. And then once you do that, once your brain is equalized, because you're not so much frozen, then you're able to get back in there and be able to have maybe more conversation. Maybe it's not gonna go the exact way you'd like, but you're out of that frozen state and you're feeling safer, and you're reminding yourself that you're safe and that you can have more of a conversation. And this will be a continuous practice. Just understand, you're not going to succeed the first time around, but something that you'll have to actively do to show, hey, I don't need to be frozen, I'm okay. Because when you have the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, it's a response in your body, it's in your nervous system. You're not thinking these things, it's a deep unconscious response. So you have to actively do things with your body to activate yourself to see, okay, I'm not in danger and I'm okay. And this is something you have to continuously work on over and over and over again until your body learns, oh, this situation's not a threat, because in your amygdala it is programmed now that these certain situations are a threat because you responded the same way for so long. So you have to retrain your brain the opposite way. And the last one is the fawn response, and this is where you'll people please to try to avoid a conflict. You're trying to de-escalate a situation. And so you often will get rid of yourself and what's going on with you to try to please this person to make sure they're okay. And this is a response that mainly has evolved because of human interaction. Because if you think about it, you're not going to beg a bear not to eat you. You're not going to go into a fawn response when you're in front of a bear. So this is more so with human interaction, dealing with the abuse of human. And the whole purpose is to de-escalate what feels like a threat in a human interaction to prevent any harm they could cause. And it's generally usually human harm, it's generally emotional harm. It could also be physical harm as well. It could be either or, but it's from a human. And you're trying to control this human's response to you. So when you are in a social situation and maybe someone's getting mad at you, or they're getting angry at you, and you know you dealt with this all the way in childhood, you also had that same response, and when you feel threatened or in danger, you immediately will go into what feels like a panic. You'll start to like panic, like, okay, like you notice that they're starting to get mad, and so you're worried about their response. You're worried about a fight, a confrontation. You're worried about maybe them hitting you or hurting you in some sort of way, just like you did when you were in childhood. And so you immediately go into that response of like, oh no, it's okay, like I'll take back what I said, or I didn't mean it like that, like no, like I'm sorry I said that. You'll overly apologize. You're trying to find ways that you can make it up to them, and you're trying to appease this person. And then later on you'll be like, like I'm a little frustrated because I immediately, you know, bow down to them, and you know, they did this and it pissed me off and what have you, and you're more of that fight kind of reaction will come in, because that's really what needed to happen in that moment, is that when there was maybe that interaction, there needed to be more of that sense of needing to protect yourself rather than trying to protect them. And that comes from in childhood, when you felt like you weren't allowed to protect yourself, you weren't allowed to get angry, and if you didn't feel like you were allowed to get angry, that fight response will be suppressed and it will come out in a fawn response instead. And that fight response may come out at inappropriate times, or it may just never come out at all. So what do you need in these situations? So you need to, again, it's that awareness of being aware when you start to get that panicky feeling. Generally, you'll probably feel it in your chest, or you'll maybe feel like your stomach drop. You will feel something in your body that you immediately will be like, I need to fix this situation. I need to make them feel better. Then once you recognize, like, oh, I'm getting to that fawn response, then again, you need to take a few deep breaths, because you are starting to get really panicky, and you may need to excuse yourself again, and you need to just evaluate the situation. Okay, what's going on? What is this situation? Okay, this person is getting angry or agitated. Did I do something to make this person angry or agitated? Do I actually need to apologize? If you evaluate the situation, you realize, oh, I didn't actually do anything wrong, when you're when your brain is equalized and you are not just in that emotional part of your brain of trying to make amends with this person, you can evaluate, okay, I noticed that, you know, maybe I was unfair here and they were unfair here, and so you evaluate the situation better to determine how you want to handle it. And then you ask yourself, you know, how do I want to handle this situation? What is the problem that I'm trying to resolve in this situation? How can I go about it? Will doing this help me reach my goal? Maybe you're dealing with a narcissist, so you say, okay, maybe I can't confront them the way I would like, maybe I need to enforce a boundary, or maybe I realized I was a little bit out of bounds and I need to apologize, but I still need to make sure that I'm not trying to appease this person, because then I'm just going to be enabling them and they're going to think it's okay for them to talk to me that way. So maybe I need to enforce some boundaries here. So when you take some time for yourself to evaluate the situation, how you want to handle it, and you get out of that immediate phone response and you get more into that response of like, okay, this is, you evaluate the situation and see what's going on, you can better delegate and say, okay, this is where I was wrong and this is where they were wrong. So that way you don't immediately go into that fawn response. But you need to be in a place where you're level-headed, otherwise you'll always go into that fawn response. And I talk more about the fawn response, which I will leave right here. So really, when it comes to the fawn response, you want to think, okay, what is the solution I'm trying to get, and how do I achieve this solution? And it is not always taking accountability and trying to make the other person feel better. If you ever are in a threat where the person could potentially hurt you, you definitely want to get away. But if there's any confrontation or there's something emotional going on, you definitely want to take time to evaluate, so that way you don't get stuck in a place where you're always getting taken advantage of and you're always trying to make this person feel better, because that's unfair. And that all will always cause you to stay stuck in that fawn response. So what do you guys think? Leave it on the comments below. And please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone that you think may need it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye, guys. Oh, my knee is killing me. Guys, just know you can never mess with me, because this is my security. This is my security guard right here. She's a really good security guard. She always blocks the wall. I love you so much, you're my best friend. She always, okay. She doesn't like being held anymore. It's the old age. She always makes sure to guard the walls to make sure they're not falling. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have a whole album of my dog just right in front of the wall, like staring directly at the wall. And she's been like that since forever. I don't know.